They said she was gone forever, but last night I saw her standing in the corner of my room. I froze. My breath caught somewhere between my chest and throat. Her face, pale, drained of life, was exactly how I remembered it, except for her eyes. Those eyes were not my sister's anymore. They were hollow, black, bottomless pits that reflected nothing but pain. She didn't blink. She didn't move. She only stared, as if she had something left to say, something I was too late to hear. My name is Alex Monroe, and this is the story of how my little sister Lily came back from the grave, not for love, not for peace, but for justice. It's been 5 years since Lily died. She was only 14 when it happened. One second she was walking home from school, and the next, they said she tripped near the old creek and drowned. But the creek wasn't deep, not even knee-high. I'd been there hundreds of times growing up. A child couldn't drown in that place unless someone held her down. The police called it an accident. She probably slipped, hit her head, went under, they said. My mother cried for weeks. My father broke everything in sight. And I just shut down. Everyone told me to move on, that accidents happen. But Lily wasn't careless. She wasn't clumsy. She was scared before she died. I knew it. I could feel it in her last voicemail, the one I've never deleted. In it, her voice trembles. Alex, there's someone following me. After her death, I moved away. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every room screamed her name. Every photo, every sound, even the smell of her favorite shampoo. I thought leaving would bury the memories, but grief, it doesn't leave. It just hides, waiting for silence. Last week, my father passed away. I came back to our old home for the funeral, expecting nothing but pain and empty rooms. The house hadn't changed much. Same peeling wallpaper, same creaking floors, but the air felt heavier, colder. My father's things were still everywhere, untouched. He'd never gotten over Lily. On the first night back, I slept in my old room. The window looked out toward the woods where she used to play. At around 3 a.m., I awoke to a tapping sound, slow, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up, heart racing. The sound was coming from the window. Outside, the woods were pitch black, but I could see movement, a faint white shimmer. I rubbed my eyes, convinced it was moonlight or maybe exhaustion, but then I saw her, standing at the tree line, wearing that same white dress she'd worn the day she died. Torn, dirty, fluttering even though there was no wind. Her head tilted slightly, like she recognized me. My whole body went cold. I stumbled toward the window, whispered her name, but she didn't respond. She just raised one hand and pointed toward the forest. Then she was gone. Vanished. No footsteps. No sound. Nothing but the lingering chill that wrapped around the room. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I went into the woods. The ground was damp with last night's rain. Birds weren't singing. It was too quiet, the kind of silence that hums in your ears. I followed the spot where I'd seen her. My boots sunk into soft earth until I reached the old swing set we used to play on. It was still there, rusted, crooked, a relic of our childhood. Underneath it, something glinted. I knelt down and brushed away the wet leaves. It was Lily's charm bracelet, the one she never took off. The metal was dull, bent and caked in dirt, but I'd recognize it anywhere. When I lifted it, I saw words etched in the mud beneath it. 3 words. Find him, Alex. I froze. My mind wanted to believe it was a coincidence, that maybe kids had been playing here, or I was imagining things, but deep inside, I knew better. The handwriting, the tone, it was hers. For the next 2 nights she came again, always at the same hour, always silent, sometimes standing by the trees, sometimes by the porch. Each time she pointed deeper into the forest. Each time she looked more desperate, like time was running out. On the 3rd night, I followed her. The path twisted through thick pines, roots snaking across the ground like veins. The air smelled of damp earth and rot. I could barely see, except for the faint white glow that seemed to trail ahead of me. That was her, guiding me. I called her name again, softly, but she didn't turn. She drifted forward, soundless, weightless. After 10 minutes, she stopped beside a fallen tree. When I reached her, she was gone. Only her reflection remained, faintly shimmering on a puddle near the roots. That's when I saw it. Something buried halfway in the mud. A small notebook. I picked it up and wiped the dirt off. It was Lily's handwriting. Inside were notes, short, shaky sentences written days before she died. He watches me from the trees. I hear footsteps when I'm alone. He said not to tell anyone. My hands trembled. Who was he? The last entry stopped my heart cold. It said, "If I die, tell Mom I saw his face." The page was smeared with something dark, old, dried blood. I took the notebook home and read every word under the kitchen light. My father's chair still sat there, his coffee mug half-stained. For the first time, I wondered if he'd known. He'd always avoided talking about that night. Maybe he was protecting someone, or maybe he was afraid. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching the house. I went to close the curtains, and there, in the reflection of the glass, I saw a man standing by the edge of the forest. Tall, motionless. I turned instantly, but he was gone. Only the fog remained. The next day I took Lily's diary to the sheriff. He flipped through the pages, sighed, and said there wasn't enough evidence to reopen the case. "You're chasing ghosts, Alex," he said, handing it back to me. I almost laughed. If only he knew how right he was. That night, the tapping returned, louder, faster. I rushed to the window, expecting her, but this time, it wasn't Lily. It was him. The same man I'd seen near the forest. His face pale under the porch light, eyes wide with something between fear and madness. Before I could react, he turned and bolted into the woods. I grabbed a flashlight and followed, my heart hammering like a drum. Branches whipped against my face, my breath fogged in the cold air. I could hear him ahead, snapping twigs, crunching leaves. And then, suddenly, silence. The beam of my flashlight caught something, an old cabin I'd never seen before. The door hung open slightly, creaking in the wind. Inside it smelled of mildew and old smoke. On the table sat a photograph, my sister's school portrait, and next to it, a lock of her hair, tied with a ribbon. My knees nearly gave out. That's when I heard her. Her voice faint but clear. "Alex." I spun around. The air behind me shimmered, cold and heavy. She was there again, her face inches from mine, her lips moved without sound, eyes glistening with something that looked like sorrow. Then she looked toward the back of the cabin and vanished. When I followed, I found a trapdoor hidden under the floorboards. It creaked open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The smell that hit me was rot and something metallic. Blood. I pointed the flashlight down, and what I saw made my stomach twist. Photos of Lily, hundreds of them. Some torn, some burned, all pinned to the walls like trophies. And scrawled across the concrete in dripping black paint were the words, She wouldn't stop screaming. My light flickered. Somewhere behind me, a voice whispered, not Lily's this time, a man's voice. Low, raspy. You shouldn't have come back. I froze. For a second, I thought my brain was glitching, sleep deprivation, caffeine, grief. But then she blinked. Slow, deliberate. Her eyes were wide and filled with something I hadn't seen in years. Pain. Her lips trembled as if she was trying to speak, but no sound came out. I turned around instantly. Nothing there. Just the empty hallway behind me, quiet as a tomb. When I looked back at the mirror again, she was gone. My hands started shaking so hard that the camera nearly slipped out of them. I don't even remember dropping to my knees, but I must have, because the next thing I recall is sitting there, staring at my reflection, whispering her name like it would summon her back. Emily, please. The following days were a blur. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every reflection, the TV screen, the window at night, even the shine on the kitchen knife seemed to twitch at the edges of reality, like she was trapped just beneath the surface, watching, waiting. On the fifth night, I heard her voice for the first time. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't even a whisper. It was a soft, broken melody, humming the same lullaby I used to sing to her when she was 5. I followed it into her old room. The air was freezing cold, my breath visible. Her bed, untouched for years, had indentations on the pillow, like someone had just been lying there. And then, right on the wall above her bed, words began to appear. Not written, but etched, as if invisible fingers were carving through the paint. Slowly, painfully. He still lives here. I stumbled back. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned every other sound. He? I whispered. Who? But there was no answer, just the quiet creak of the floorboards behind me. I didn't dare turn around. I ran. I ran out of the room, down the stairs, and straight into the cold night air. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely unlock my car. I drove away without looking back once. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I went through every photo, every message, every memory of Emily. There was one picture that stopped me cold, taken a week before she died. She was standing beside someone at her school fair. A man, tall, clean-cut, a little too familiar. I zoomed in. The photo had blurry, but the shape of his jaw, the slight scar near his eyebrow. I knew that face. It was her teacher, Mr. Harold Kent. The police had cleared him back then. No evidence, no witnesses. But Emily, she was saying otherwise. The next day, I drove to his house. It wasn't far. A quiet suburban neighborhood, white fences, kids' bikes and driveways. His place looked ordinary, the kind of normal that tries a little too hard to hide something dark. I parked across the street, pretending to check my phone while I watched him mow the lawn. He waved to a neighbor, smiled, the perfect picture of a harmless man. But behind that smile I could see something else now. The same coldness I'd seen in my nightmare since Emily died. That night, the humming came back, louder this time. It wasn't coming from the house, it was coming from my phone. My old voicemail notifications, ones I'd already deleted, were back. There was just one new message. No number, just static, and Emily's voice whispering, "Dad, don't let him bury me again." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in that mirror, pale, terrified, trapped between worlds. Her words echoed in my head like a curse. "Don't let him bury me again." By dawn, I was outside Mr. Kent's house again. The world looked normal. Birds chirping, the smell of fresh-cut grass, someone walking their dog. But inside my head, it was a storm. I watched him every move through my windshield. He came out with a mug of coffee, leaned against his porch railing, and smiled at nothing in particular. That smile made my blood boil. Around noon, he left, locked up, drove away in his silver SUV. I waited 5 minutes, then crossed the street. The air felt heavy, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. I told myself I just wanted to look, to find something, anything that could explain what Emily meant. His back door was unlocked. That alone sent chills down my spine. The house was spotless, too spotless, like a showroom pretending to be lived in. There was a faint smell of bleach in the air, mixed with something metallic. I walked through the kitchen, past the neatly arranged knives, the spotless sink, into the hallway. Family photos lined the wall. Smiling faces, vacations, birthdays. But one frame caught my eye. The picture inside was missing. Only the cracked glass remained. Something about that emptiness felt wrong. Then I heard it. Faint humming. The same lullaby again. Coming from downstairs. I followed it to a door that led to the basement. My hand hesitated on the knob. It was cold. Too cold. The door creaked open, and a wave of damp, stale air hit me. I took out my flashlight and turned on the light. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing concrete walls covered in black stains. The smell down there was unbearable. Rot, mold, and something I didn't want to name. Each step down the wooden stairs moaned under my weight. When I reached the bottom, I saw them. Dozens of old-school trophies, photographs of students, and a small white ribbon hanging from a nail. My stomach dropped. That ribbon was Emily's. I remembered it clearly. She wore it every day. "Emily!" I whispered. The humming stopped. Silence. Then a whisper right behind my ear. "He hurt me, Dad." I spun around so fast my flashlight flew out of my hand. It hit the floor, flickering, casting twisted shadows across the basement walls. For a moment I thought I saw her, standing in the corner, face pale, eyes hollow. But when the light steadied, she was gone. That's when I noticed something else. The far wall. It looked uneven, like a patch of new concrete over old brick. I pressed my hand against it. Cold, slightly damp. I knocked once. Hollow. I found a rusted crowbar hanging near the workbench. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. But I started hitting the wall anyway, one strike after another. Bits of concrete crumbled away. My arms burned, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. When the hole was big enough, I shined my phone inside. There was a wooden box, old, splintered, covered in dried mud. I dragged it out, my breath coming in ragged bursts. The latch broke easily. Inside was Emily's necklace, the one the police said they never found. And beneath it, bones, small, fragile, unmistakably human. I screamed. The sound echoed through the basement until my throat went raw. I stumbled backward, hit the wall, and slid down to the floor, shaking. My daughter had been buried here, in his basement. Somewhere above me, the floorboards creaked. Someone was home. The creak above me froze my blood. I didn't dare move. My mind screamed for silence, but my heartbeat was pounding so violently that I was sure whoever was up there could hear it. Another step, heavier this time, slow, calculated. He was back. I looked around the basement frantically. There was nowhere to hide, just old boxes, tools, and shadows that didn't seem to belong to anything. My hands were slick with sweat and dust, gripping the crowbar so tight it felt like part of me. Footsteps descended the stairs. The light from above cast a long shadow stretching down the wall. His shadow. "What the hell are you doing in my house?" His voice cut through the air like a knife, calm but shaking underneath. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat was raw from screaming earlier. I just pointed toward the broken wall, the open box, the bones. For a second he didn't move. Then he saw it. His whole body stiffened. He took a step back, then forward again, as if deciding whether to run or fight. His expression twisted, something dark bleeding through that fake teacherly calm. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. I took a step forward. "You killed her." His lips parted into a half-smile. "Killed her? No, she fell. She was just a curious little girl who didn't listen. I told her to stop screaming." His voice lowered, almost like he was talking to himself. But she wouldn't stop. I lunged at him. The crowbar hit his shoulder, and he shouted, stumbling back. The sound of metal on bone echoed through the house. He fell against the wall, grabbed a hammer from a nearby shelf, and swung wildly. It grazed my face, a flash of pain exploding across my cheek. We struggled, crashing into the workbench, tools scattered everywhere. His breath was rancid, sour sweat, and something foul like rot. He was stronger than he looked. Years of anger surged through me, but it wasn't enough. He pushed me hard, sending me sprawling across the floor. The hammer clattered beside me. Then, the lights flickered. Both of us froze. The air turned icy, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. The shadows stretched, twisting unnaturally along the walls. The hum started again, that same lullaby. His face drained of color. "No," he whispered. No. The temperature dropped further. Our breaths turned white. And then she appeared. Emily. She stood between us, her small form faintly glowing, her white dress fluttering like it was underwater. Her eyes weren't angry. They were sad. Infinite sadness. Mr. Kent backed into the wall. "Stay away from me," he shouted, waving the hammer. "You're not real! You're not real!" She tilted her head slightly, her voice soft, but echoing through the room like 1,000 whispers at once. "You buried me, Mr. Kent." The hammer slipped from his hand. He shook his head, trembling violently. "I didn't mean, it wasn't, she fell." Emily raised her hand. The lights exploded. Glass raining down like shards of ice. The air filled with a high-pitched ringing. Kent screamed, a raw, animal sound, and then the basement door slammed shut on its own. The last thing I saw before everything went black was her, standing over him, her pale hand reaching toward his chest. When I came to, I was lying on the basement floor. The air was still again, silent. The faint glow from my phone screen showed the wall where I'd broken through, and beside it, Mr. Kent's body. His eyes were open, his face twisted in a frozen expression of terror. He wasn't breathing. I looked around for Emily. She was gone, but on the floor beside me, carved into the concrete, were 3 words, faintly glowing in that pale light. "Thank you, Dad." I wept until morning. By the time the police arrived, the sun had already risen, spilling soft gold light over a scene that felt like hell. I sat on the curb outside, covered in dust and dried blood, staring at nothing. The flashing red and blue lights painted the morning in chaos, but inside me, everything was quiet. An officer crouched beside me. "Sir, we need you to tell us what happened." What could I say? That my daughter's ghost came back to avenge herself? That the man who murdered her died at her hands? Or whatever was left of them? Instead, I said the only thing that made sense in their world. "I found my daughter's remains in his basement. He attacked me. I defended myself." That was enough. They searched the house for hours. When they finally pulled out the small wooden box with Emily's bones, I saw one of the detectives quietly cross himself. The evidence was undeniable. Mr. Harold Kent, the respected teacher, the kind neighbor, the man everyone trusted, had been a monster hiding in plain sight. They ruled it self-defense. The town called it closure. But I knew better. There's no closure when you've seen what I've seen. There's just the silence after the storm. For weeks, I couldn't bring myself to go home. The mirror, her room, the whispers. I couldn't face any of it. I stayed in a motel off the highway, chain smoking, watching static on a broken TV. Every night I heard faint humming through the vents. I told myself it was nothing, just my mind replaying the trauma. But then came the dreams. At first, they were peaceful. Emily smiling, running through a field, sunlight in her hair. But slowly they changed. The field turned gray, the sky darkened. And she wasn't running anymore. She was standing still, staring at something behind me. Every night the same dream. Every morning I woke with the feeling that something was missing, like the air had weight again. A month later I went back to my house. The police had cleaned up the mess, taken the evidence, sealed the case. Everything was supposed to be normal again. But normal doesn't come back once the dead have touched your world. The first night home, I walked past her room. The door was closed. I hadn't shut it. I pushed it open slowly. The air inside was colder than the rest of the house. Her bed was made, the way she used to leave it, slightly uneven on the right side. And on the pillow lay her ribbon, clean, untouched. I picked it up and felt something cold run down my spine. Then I noticed the mirror on her wall. It wasn't dusty anymore. Someone had wiped it clean. In the reflection, I saw her, standing behind me. I didn't turn around this time. I couldn't. I just whispered, "You're free now, sweetheart." She smiled. It was faint, but real. Then she faded, like fog dissolving in sunlight. For the first time in months, I felt peace. I thought it was over. But peace, I've learned, is just the calm before the next haunting. 3 nights later, I awoke to a sound I hadn't heard before. Scratching. Slow, deliberate. Coming from under my bed. I turned on the light. Nothing. I bent down, heart hammering, and lifted the blanket. There was no one there. But carved into the wooden floorboards with something sharp were 4 new words: fresh, deep. I didn't move for what felt like hours. My knees pressed into the cold floor, eyes locked on those words. The wood splintered, the letters still damp with something dark. It wasn't paint, it wasn't blood either. It was something in between, like rot scraped from the bottom of a grave. I whispered into the empty room, "Emily, what do you mean?" But the air stayed silent. The smell of old dust and iron lingered. I sat there until dawn, unable to look away from the message that changed everything. By morning, I was on my laptop, digging through police records, archived articles, anything I could find about Harold Kent. Most of it matched what I already knew. 20 years of teaching, clean background, no family. But then I found something strange. His name showed up in an old case file from another county, 20 years ago. The file was thin, half redacted. It mentioned a missing girl, 11 years old, disappeared after school. Case unsolved. The teacher's name on that file? Harold Kent. But he wasn't listed as a suspect. He was listed as a witness. I leaned back in my chair, my stomach twisting. That meant he'd been near another victim before Emily, maybe more than one. I kept digging. Every town he worked in had a missing girl around the same time. Every single one. 5 towns, 5 missing girls. And then something even darker surfaced. A photo from a staff retreat dated years before Emily was born. Mr. Kent wasn't alone. 3 other men stood beside him, all wearing the same silver lapel pins. Small, circular, engraved with a pattern I couldn't quite make out. When I zoomed in, my blood ran cold. The symbol was a spiral, almost identical to the one Emily used to draw in her notebooks before she died. I remembered the first time she showed it to me. "It's a secret club," she'd said, giggling. "Only some teachers know about it." My hands started shaking so bad I dropped the laptop. The sound echoed through the empty house. That night I heard the humming again, faint, almost like it was coming from outside. I looked through the window, and there she was, standing under the streetlight, her white dress glowing faintly in the fog. "Emily," I called out. My voice cracked. She didn't move. She just lifted her hand and pointed, not at me, but at the woods behind the house. The same woods where the police had searched the first night she disappeared. I grabbed a flashlight and went out. The grass was wet with dew, the air sharp and cold. Every step I took made the world quieter, like sound itself was being swallowed. When I reached the edge of the trees, she was gone. Only the humming remained. I followed it through the forest, branches clawing at my jacket. The sound grew clearer, a tune that no longer sounded like a lullaby, but like something warped and broken. Then, ahead of me, I saw a flicker of light, fire, small candles arranged in a circle around a rotting wooden table, and carved into the surface of that table was the same spiral symbol. Dried blood traced every line of it. My flashlight caught movement behind a tree. I turned fast, but saw nothing, just darkness. Then a whisper brushed past my ear, too close to be wind. "Not all of them are dead." I spun around again. The candles went out, one by one, as if an unseen hand pinched them. The woods went black. I ran, stumbling through the dark, branches tearing my arms, my breath coming in short gasps. By the time I burst out onto the road, the world looked wrong, the sky too dark, the air too still. My house was lit up, every window glowing white. And through the glass of Emily's room, I could see her silhouette, standing with someone else. The next night, I went back to the house, alone. No cameras, no crew, no phone signal. Just me and the truth that had been clawing at my sanity. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like burnt dust and old tears. Every step I took toward that house, the world around me seemed to quiet down, like the town itself was holding its breath. The front door creaked open on its own, the sound echoing through the hollow rooms. I whispered Emily's name, half expecting silence, half fearing her answer. And then I saw her, standing at the base of the staircase, the same spot where she'd died. But this time she wasn't transparent. She looked alive, almost human. Her eyes were wet, reflecting the flicker of light from the old fireplace that somehow had come alive again. She spoke softly, her voice trembling. "You came back." "I had to," I said. "I know who did this to you." Her expression shifted, a mix of grief and rage. "Then say it." "It was your stepfather, wasn't it? The fire wasn't an accident." Emily nodded slowly, tears running down her pale face. "He locked me in the basement that night, said he'd had enough of my lies. But I wasn't lying. I told him I saw what he did to those girls. I told him I'd tell the police." I felt my stomach twist. The town had whispered about a killer years ago, girls disappearing, no arrests made, all before the fire. Everyone thought it ended with the flames, that the guilty had burned with the house. But now it was clear. He'd burned his secrets, and her with it. The temperature dropped suddenly. Emily turned toward the flames, her form flickering. The shadows along the walls began to move, stretching, twisting, crawling. Out of the darkness a figure emerged, tall, charred, wearing a melted ring on his left hand. His face was a blackened mask of what used to be human, his voice a low, rumbling growl. "You shouldn't have come back." The fire roared violently, throwing sparks across the room. I stumbled back, my flashlight flickering out. Emily stood between us, her ghostly body glowing like frost in moonlight. "You can't hurt him anymore," she said, her tone calm but powerful. The figure lunged forward, the air exploding in heat and ash. I felt the ground tremble as the house groaned around us. Emily screamed, not in fear but in fury. Her glow brightened until the walls cracked. The fire swallowed the darkness whole, and the man's shadow shrieked before vanishing into smoke. Then there was silence, just the hiss of dying embers. Emily turned to me, her form fading. "It's over," she whispered. "Thank you." I wanted to stop her, to ask her what would happen now, but she smiled, the faintest, saddest smile. "Now I can go home." And just like that, she was gone. The fire in the hearth went cold. The smell of smoke lifted. I stood alone in the ruins, watching dawn break through the shattered windows. I didn't know if anyone would believe what happened, but I didn't care. Emily's story was finally told. When I stepped outside, the first light of morning hit the old nameplate by the gate. The rusted letters read, "Cole Residence." I froze. My blood ran cold. That was my last name. And that's when I realized the story hadn't ended. It had just started. I couldn't breathe. The morning air felt heavy, thick, like someone was pressing a hand against my chest. My last name, Cole. That couldn't be right. There had to be some mistake. I backed away from the rusted sign, wiping the grime off it, hoping I'd misread it. But no, the letters were carved deep into the metal. Cole Residence. My hands were shaking. My parents had never mentioned any relatives in this town, never even mentioned this place at all. But now, standing there, I realized the pull I'd felt from the beginning, the strange familiarity, wasn't just fear. It was recognition. I went back inside. The house felt different now, calmer, almost waiting. I headed to the basement door, the one Emily said she'd been locked behind. It was half-burned, hanging off its hinges, the air behind it colder than the rest of the house. I stepped down slowly, each creak of the wood echoing like a warning. At the bottom, I found what looked like an old storage room. The smell of mold, ash, and iron filled my lungs. In the far corner, buried under a pile of collapsed shelves, was a small metal lockbox, half melted but intact. I pulled it free and forced it open with a rusted crowbar. Inside were photographs, black and white, old, almost a century. The first one stopped my heart. A man and woman standing in front of this same house. The man looked eerily familiar. Same jawline, same eyes. He looked like me. On the back of the photo, written in faded ink, Arthur Cole and daughter Emily, 1927. My knees almost gave out. Emily's last name was Cole. My last name was Cole. This wasn't just some random haunting. Emily wasn't a stranger's ghost. She was family. My great-grandfather had been the man who built this house. But that didn't explain everything. I kept digging through the box until I found a small, charred envelope. Inside was a letter, its edges burned and brittle. I unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. If anyone finds this, know that she didn't die by accident. Arthur lost his mind after Margaret's death. He believed Emily was cursed, said she heard voices in the walls, said she saw things that weren't there. He thought burning the house would cleanse the evil, but he was wrong. The evil wasn't in the walls. It was in him. The paper slipped from my fingers. I felt my pulse hammering in my throat. Emily wasn't just a ghost looking for revenge. She was trapped in the same bloodline curse that had driven my great-grandfather insane. Suddenly, the basement lights flickered on by themselves. Every bulb in the ceiling blazed white, humming. The shadows on the wall started to move again. Not like before, not random. This time, they formed shapes, faces, dozens of them, and right in the center, a tall shadow stretched across the wall, wearing a melted ring. The voice came again, deep and hollow. "You can't erase blood, boy. It runs too deep." I stumbled back, my flashlight shaking in my grip. "You're dead. You don't belong here." The voice laughed, a horrible, dry laugh. "Neither do you. You came back because you're part of it. You brought her back." The air turned to ice. I could see my breath. The floorboards groaned under invisible weight. Suddenly, a burning heat shot through my chest. My vision blurred, and I saw her, Emily, appearing between us again, glowing brighter than before. "Stop!" she screamed. And the shadow froze. The ground split with a violent crack. Fire burst from the gaps, swallowing the basement in light. The shadow shrieked, twisting into smoke. Emily turned to me, her hands trembling. "You have to leave. He can't hurt you, but if you stay, he'll find another way." "Emily, go!" Her voice echoed as the flames roared higher. I ran up the stairs, the floor collapsing behind me. By the time I reached the front door, the entire house was burning. I turned one last time, and through the flames, I saw Emily standing in the doorway, smiling, peaceful at last. Then the house came down. When I woke up, I was lying in the grass, covered in ash. The fire had stopped. The house was gone, just smoke and ruin. But something gleamed in the debris. I walked closer. It was the melted ring lying on top of the ashes. I picked it up. For a second, the metal burned against my skin, and then, faintly, I heard her voice. "Thank you, Evan." I smiled, even as tears stung my eyes. She was gone. For good this time. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something carved in the bark of the tree by the gate. Freshly carved. Words that hadn't been there before. "Blood never dies." and as the wind howled through the burnt trees behind me, I swear I heard footsteps following mine, soft, dragging, like someone was walking just out of sight. The story didn't end with her. It began with me.